In 1971, Pakistan was a nation physically divided. Its eastern and western territories were separated by over 1,000 miles of Indian landmass. A military crackdown in East Pakistan, modern-day Bangladesh, triggered a humanitarian crisis that sent over 9 million refugees across the border into India. This massive influx put immense financial and demographic strain on the Indian government. To weaken the Pakistani military's position, India moved to choke their supply lines. By locking down its airspace, India forced all Pakistani military shipments to take a long, vulnerable detour by sea. India's covert response to these maritime routes was Operation X. In hidden camps, they trained Mukti Bahini guerrillas from East Pakistan in specialized underwater warfare. These fighters were trained to swim at night and attach magnetic limpet mines to the hulls of Pakistani ships. The signal to strike was hidden in plain sight, broadcast via 2 specific songs over the radio. When those tracks played on August 15th, the commandos struck, sinking thousands of tons of Pakistani ammunition. By successfully sabotaging these cargo ships, India demonstrated that Pakistan's maritime routes were no longer secure, complicating their reinforcement efforts well before any official declaration of war. Once Pakistan realized the extent of the sabotage, they sought a way to remove India's strategic advantage in the Bay of Bengal. Their primary target was the aircraft carrier INS Vikrant. Destroying this vessel would strip the Indian Navy of its primary platform for airstrikes and sea control, leaving the entire eastern coast exposed. To hunt the carrier, Pakistan deployed the PNS Ghazi. This was a long-range, US-built submarine, specifically leased to provide a counterweight to India's naval strength. The Ghazi was dispatched from Karachi with a dual mission: locate and sink the Vikrant, and lay a series of naval mines along India's eastern seaboard to disrupt further operations. The Ghazi moved into the Bay of Bengal under total radio silence, marking the beginning of a high-stakes hunt for the Indian carrier. Indian intelligence soon intercepted a sudden increase in encrypted signals, a clear indicator that a significant submarine threat was moving toward their coast. At the time, the Indian Navy lacked the specialized underwater equipment needed to find and engage a submarine as advanced as the Ghazi in the open sea. To protect the carrier, India secretly moved the INS Vikrant to a remote, classified location in the Andaman Islands, known by the codename Port X-Ray. Hiding the ship was only the first step. To neutralize the Ghazi, the Indian Navy had to convince the Pakistani commander that the carrier was still in its original port. The Navy selected an older, obsolete destroyer called the INS Rajput to serve as a decoy, positioning it to take the carrier's place in the public eye. The Rajput began broadcasting unencrypted radio messages, deliberately creating the kind of high-volume communication traffic typically associated with a massive aircraft carrier. To make the deception even more convincing, officials placed massive fake orders for meat and vegetables at the Visakhapatnam port, creating a trail of logistical vita. Local spies picked up on these orders and concluded that the Vikrant was docked and resupplying. This information was relayed back to the Ghazi's command. Believing the target was stationary and vulnerable, the Ghazi headed straight for the narrow entrance of the Visakhapatnam harbor. Through the use of radio static and produce orders, the Indian Navy had successfully lured Pakistan's most lethal underwater weapon into a controlled environment. By late November, the Ghazi reached the harbor and began laying underwater mines, intending to trap the carrier it believed was just inside. But the mission faltered. While attempting a rapid dive to avoid a collision with another ship, the Ghazi struck the seafloor with enough force to damage its hull and dislodge its own torpedoes. On the night of December 3rd, the decoy ship INS Rajput was returning to the harbor when its sonar team detected the stranded submarine attempting to move. The INS Rajput's captain took absolutely zero chances and immediately ordered the release of 2 heavy depth charges into the water. A massive underwater explosion followed, powerful enough to be felt by residents on the shore. The Ghazi sank to the bottom, taking all 93 crew members with it. The destruction of the Ghazi neutralized Pakistan's primary naval threat, preventing it from ever launching a single torpedo against its intended target. Even though the wreck has been located, the specific sequence of events that actually led to the final fatal explosion remains a major point of historical contention. The Indian Navy credits the depth charge attack by the INS Rajput as the action that destroyed the submarine. Conversely, Pakistani military reviews suggest the explosion may have been an internal accident, perhaps caused by a battery failure or a mine detonating prematurely during the grounding. Regardless of the exact cause, the loss of the Ghazi stripped Pakistan of its naval reach for the duration of the war. The Visakhapatnam decoy operation shows that information and psychological warfare can neutralize a superior weapon, removing a critical obstacle to India's victory in 1971.